It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. Oh, what the hell was that? It's Friday, yeah. And this Feedback Friday, uh, I'm gonna talk about like the info dump of game information we got this week because the feedback was sort of a combination of yes, I agree, and people sharing their stories, and then a couple of asshats who completely missed the point. And I am, if someone's seems to be trying to engage, that's one thing. If people are looking to just judge primarily, I have less than zero interest in that. And that's what I want to talk about today, essentially, continuing with some of the themes, because I've been hearing from a lot of people that they're getting fed up and frustrated with we call them misunderstandings, we call them communication issues, but what I think they really are is false assumptions of ill intent. And that is a thorny issue, because if someone's going to mind read, they aren't just going to stop when they're wrong. The problem with mind reading is that if a conversation goes on long enough and someone eventually gets frustrated and says something less than perfect, the person who engaged in mind reading and is adamant in proving the intent of the other person, they'll go, you see, because of one thing. They totally ignore the 10 that disprove their point. That one thing that proves the nefarious thing, that's what they seize on. And there is so much going on with that of late. So if you like this content, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/Leanna K. Both forms of support are extremely appreciated. And if you want to sign up for a one-on-one Leanna Care session, you can fill out the intake form below for you, or if there's a friend, please talk to them first. But if there's a friend that you want to help out that way, we can work out indirect billing as well. No problem. So there's been a lot of noise lately. And the thing I find interesting is, and I don't want to focus on the usual suspects, I want to focus on the other people, because Dragon Age had a rough week. And I thought it was just me initially that was like, okay, they want the Fortnite players. Next, hey, Alan Wake DLC. Oh my god, the Alan Wake DLC is so fun. Oh, I played it on Twitch. Oh my god, I'm gonna go back and play it again. And that was my second playthrough. Like, it's only maybe, well, it depends on how much you fart around. The first time I played it, I read every sign and went around every corner and just looked everywhere. So all 3 episodes, it took me about 5 hours. I blew through it in 2.5. And then I replayed the last episode in under a half hour on Twitch. So, but add that up. We're already at 8 hours. And then I'm going to play it again, because I love it. It's so good. And the funny thing is, it's making fun of the hardcore fans in the first bit. And my mic's peaking, I apologize. Because the first one is basically self-insert fanfiction, but it's done in such an affectionate, loving way. It's a laugh with instead of a laugh at. And it was so nice to share that on Twitch, because other people they're not going to play the game because it's too scary and hard. Because it is a deliberately frustrating game. And so a lot of people won't play it because jump scares, because gross, because so on and so forth. And so I'm able to share this thing with people, and they're going, oh my god, someone at Remedy is reading a lot of Wattpad. There's big Sarah J. Maas energy in some of the sentence constructions. And it's one of these things where we know, one, they write that kind of Stephen King not at his best writing so well in Base Alan Wake. And now they're doing this other kind of very rushed, just get the book out, the editor doesn't give a shit stuff with the DLC. And we're all like, oh, everything they're saying is true about, the stuff at its worst. And yet it's done in a way that the attention to detail is such that they clearly love it too. And this is the mark of a truly mature fan base. I mean, okay, they made a game in Alan Wake 2 about owning your shit. So maybe that's to be, maybe this makes sense. But it's so nice to be part of something where, Sam Lake self-parodies in the third chapter. The dude has no ego. Well, I'm sure he has some ego, but you know what I mean. Like, he knows people thinks he's crazy, and he's okay with it, and he has fun with it. And because they're having fun, we're having fun. And I think that's the mistake that some of these game companies make when they take a stand, against harassment and all that stuff. Because, okay, you guys know I think that centers the people that shouldn't be getting attention. Hence it's fun every once in a while to dunk on a completely lacking in self-awareness comment, but I don't like doing it all the time just because that's going to encourage comments of that sort. I'd rather encourage and elevate the people who do have a dialogue and are willing to be truly vulnerable and share something of themselves. Because what I'm seeing in all this stuff is that people are desperate to feel validated. And that's an understandable human thing. Like, we all need that. And a lot of people are exuding criticism. They just go around criticizing things, and for whatever reason don't expect that to come back at them. And if you know anything about any pagan or witchcraft practice, whoops, my USB cable just went in the garbage can, that's no good. But if you know anything about any magical practice, what you put out comes back. And so if you want positives coming your way, the best thing to do is put out positives. I mean, that's what I do. I do crazy shit. I'm just me. And some people like it, some people don't. And so I focus on the people who like it. And that's simple. It's not easy, because sure, there's this desire to persuade the people who think you're shit that you're not a bad person. But I've realized some people take joy from thinking I'm evil, and okay, I've, been a part of their happy misery. Good. At least the happy part, right? And so I look at stuff, and I'm going to give the Dragon Age Veilguard gameplay another shot, because it's just different, right? It's not what I expected. It's very A Court of Mist and Fury, which is not a bad thing. Because Dragon Age is a pastiche of a lot of other fantasy series. Why not throw that one in? It's very popular right now. But, I actually thought Star Wars Outlaws looked like something I will enjoy. The little Nyx critter was very cute and attacks people's faces. I'm easy to please. But the gameplay actually looked pretty good. It looked a little Ghost Recon. It looked kind of Splinter Cell. Not really, but it's a Ubisoft open world game with a Star Wars coat of paint, and I liked the reputation system. And it looks like they have cleaned up some of that motion capture irregularity. So there you go. It looks like something I'm going to enjoy. So I'm going to try it. And Assassin's Creed Shadows looks amazing. I mean, I loved Ghost of Tsushima. And I loved, the Freedom Cry DLC. And the reason I'm bringing up Freedom Cry is because the weight of Yasuki's attacks just felt like that kind of momentum-driven stuff with Adewale in that DLC. And I mean, the fact that they're using the fact that he's a black guy in Japan so that, he's not the shinobi, right? He can't hide in crowds. He's not going to be that assassin player. What I like about that is like, all right, the black guy in Japan thing now makes complete sense from a gameplay perspective. I'm not going to fight with people about the historical stuff because holy shit, like Leonardo da Vinci was not part of an assassin order either. There's been historical-ish all the way through. So it's close enough for me. The thing is, historically as well, there wasn't as fine a point on these designations and these titles and all that stuff. So it's enough for me. But then they showed Naoi? Is that her name? I don't know. The shinobi. And I'm like, I don't care, but I want her. She's amazing. That looks fantastic. The rope darts finally look like they work authentically. Oh my god. I want to play that game right now. And that's what I'm focusing on. And meanwhile, there are other people that are screaming again about so-called mannish jaws in Perfect Dark. And I swear it's just people are not adapting to the fact that there is greatest there are more realistic graphics, which mean you're not going to have perfected, perfectly smooth, triangular chinned female faces anymore. They look more like women in the real world and less like anime characters. And the fact that these guys are just waking up now to the fact that square jaws are popular in Hollywood. Welcome to my fucking pain. That's a problem. I am considered ugly by Hollywood standards because I don't have that jaw. That is considered ideal. Women get chin implants to have that jaw so they can work in Hollywood. It's because of the angles. And, I always fight that. It's like, oh, should I have gotten the surgery? And it's like, yeah, let's throw $80,000 at the wall for all the things that I insist I needed to do. And then maybe I'd get work, but for what? Would it be more fulfilling than what I'm doing now? No. So, but there is this, and people are going to feel rejected by that, and people are going to want to fight me. And all right, but that is just a fact. It is just a fact that face shape is what women get surgery to look like in Hollywood. If it is just a fact. And if you don't like it, that's fine. If you like more of the Jennifer Lawrence face, that's great. But they get these actresses, they're Hollywood actresses. We've normalized that look. And it's okay to say you don't like it, it's another thing entirely to say it's a conspiracy. And then I hear, well, but it's not pandering to me. And then I've talked about this before. I get very afraid. Because pandering is an acceptance. But the people who have said that are giving up on being accepted. They know they're being exploited for their money. And they just want something pretty to go with that exploitation. And I'm like, yikes. All right, this is where we're at. And I mean, that is what Xbox has done to gaming. Because it wasn't like this in the, PlayStation and Nintendo days. There were, there were plenty of different characters. Some were men, some were women, some were furries, some were bugs, some were robots, There was a whole Samus thing where Punk, that's not a man you've been playing as, now you can see. Until we got to the ex-bro duder shooter era, where everything became very much for that douchebag college student with the hat on sideways, right? That really solidified what was considered the cool gamer. And unfortunately, I just spilled water on myself. But unfortunately, feminist analysis played follow the leader on that. Instead of looking back to history and saying this is a blip. And so feminist analysis helped normalize the idea that this is the true and proper gamer. This is the centered gamer, and that games have to change because of that. And that is the only thing that anybody can agree on now. And it's wrong. Because plenty of people weren't that. They were hurt by the association with the dude bro guy with the hat on sideways. But they're like, fine, you think I'm that? Fine, whatever. Just give me something that's fun. And I do feel like that particular type of player keeps retreating to a compromise argument that is now so diluted that they're just being lumped in with racists and transphobes and other types of bigots, and they're not. They just want to be told that being a white male is okay. Apparently with a female lead that looks like an anime character. I don't have to understand it, okay, to validate it. I don't have to agree to validate. I understand that frustration and that pain and that fear of being, okay, you're this, okay, you're this, okay, fine, I'm this, just give me stuff I like. Well, that thing is bad. Well, okay, fine, but I'm still a person. And that's what's gotten lost, is that nobody is seeing the people they disagree with as a person. And, people who like Fortnite and Valorant, they're people. If that's who BioWare wants to play their games. She says as she looks over to her Dragon Age comics on the shelf over there that now, right? If that's how they want to play their games, that's fine. Great. I'm used to not being the consumer. I'm not going to focus on that because what's the point? I mean, when I first saw Suicide Squad kill the Justice League, I'm like, that's a terrible idea. Who wants that? Turns out I was right on that one. Like, I just have no interest in killing the Justice League. And it turns out I wasn't alone. And we have to stop making people who don't like the same things as us into the enemy. And part of that is a language thing. again, people got huffy with me because I said Dragon Age Veilguard doesn't look like it's for me. That doesn't mean it's a bad game. It's just not for me. The same way people don't like the jump scares in Alan Wake. I'm like, I've played that game through 2.5 times. The whole game. Not just the DLC. Oh my God. I love that game. And again, I'd rather focus on the game that I loved. And it's one of those games that keeps getting better the more you fart around with it. It's so intentional. And I do think Ubisoft doesn't get fair credit for some of their minimalist UI design as well. Like, they work really hard to, like, yeah, okay, you're not going to go try to do stealthy Heidi as a black man in Japan. I love that. And I think that's cool. And I'm going to say, I think that's good. And unfortunately, the YouTube algorithm isn't going to reward me for saying this game's awesome. Of course, if I did a video about the stuff I didn't like about Baldur's Gate 3, a lot more people are going to watch it and be mad at me, but still traffic. This is why I don't chase traffic. And that's the problem. Gaming is rewarding negativity. And you either have to go, okay, I'm going to forsake traffic and popularity. And I mean, I will dunk on stuff when I think it's silly, but I mean, on the Discord, we've got a whole Baldur's Gate 3 survivor support group because it was just such a thing of people starting it and being like, oh God. And we're like, wait until you get to your Dark Urge playthrough. Yeah. And I mean, there's an example of a game that really, really attempted a moonshot, and it's still a goddamn mess, but there's so many things in it for people to love. It does sort of have that same, this feels like people just trying to do something big. The way I think the original Dragon Age Origins did, and because of the way EA screwed around with Dragon Age 2, we really haven't had... I know some people loved Inquisition because it was their first Dragon Age game, and Inquisition just didn't do it for me. It was the fact that Dragon Age reinvents itself visually and, stylistically and with what it's doing. The fact that it reinvents itself again and again and again is making it increasingly difficult for me to love it, because it doesn't love itself. It's trying to copy other things, right? But that's okay. People are going to play it, and people are going to love it, and people are going to make fan art, and that's great. And I think we need to be more of that. We need to be more of that with everything geek related, right? I saw, people are back on the Star Wars bad writing thing with the Acolyte. When was Star Wars writing ever good? That's an imaginary time. Some of the tie-in novels were well done, but I remember when the prequels came out and going, these are awful. I mean, hilariously awful. I watch Attack of the Clones every single year while I'm doing like Christmas dinner preparations. It's because it's so campy bad. And I remember people shitting on the Ewoks when Return of the Jedi came out. And I remember people not being able to understand the entire phenomenon of Star Wars right from A New Hope because it was campy space opera. The writing has never been... like, it is what it is. And so the bad writing thing just feels like projection. And, a lot of people think Andor is the best Star Wars. that come out of the Disney era. Mandalorian season 1 and 2 to me are much better. But some people love Andor, and that's fine. I can't finish Andor. I get so bored. But fine. I don't have to watch it. You don't have to watch it. You don't have to attack it. And I'd believe that it really was the bad writing if everybody waited for the thing to come out and then say the writing was bad. But so many people were prepared to dislike it before people had even watched a second. And I know that's part of it, because it used to be that these companies, if you screamed and yelled loud enough, they'd throw us some bones. And I mean, I usually get told to shut up, but I hate the fan base. And then, they quietly patch the thing I complained about. It happened with, the Cross in the Synagogue and The Last of Us 2. I hated women. They patch it quietly 3 months later. Nice guys. And I do think that I have sympathy for these game companies. I think that they haven't yet learned how not to accidentally reward the toxic fans. And I do think they have some responsibility to do that. They can't control the games press. What the games press does is not the company's fault. Trust me, people at these game companies don't like what the games press does any more than you or I do. They can't control it. And so don't lump in what the developer's doing with what the media does. See also that Star Wars clip that everybody bugged out about. It was a dumb question. If you watch the clip in full, you see, Osha and May's actress just kind of trying to avoid this. The interviewer kept pushing her on so how do you feel about this being the gayest Star Wars ever? And the actress is non-binary and pansexual. And so she did what you're taught to do when you're cornered with a question that asks you to globalize. You personalize it. So I'm not going to speak for anybody else. For me, as it's just like, I think, Star Wars is, I think nerds are gay. Talking about herself. And that got completely misconstrued because the internet. And it happens to all of us. It happens to all of us who try to make anything. Our words get twisted. And I won't personally be a part of that. I opt out. And if we want stuff to be for us, we have to be okay for stuff being for other people. And this seems so simple, but when it seems like all your friends are talking about this game that you don't like, it's easy to feel left out. Because as nerds who were bullied as kids, we have a tendency to feel left out. And that's when you go to your friends and say, hey guys, can we talk about something else? We try to have multiple topics at any given time on the Discord. So if somebody's not into the game we're talking about right now, you can talk about the book we're talking about right now, or the numerous TV shows we talk about. Sometimes movies. Delicious and Dungeon is a big one. Dungeon Meshi. But that's the thing. If you can find positives to seek out instead of constantly focusing on the screaming, you're happier. And trust me, game companies, they're looking for people who are going to enjoy what they do. Even though Remedy has not answered a single interview request from me. But oh well. And let me tell you, that's rough. And that happens to me all the time. The stuff I love doesn't love me back. But you have to deal with that rejection when you work in stuff and love it. When you're a fan that works in the industry. Um, but yeah, it's possible. And I do think that, I mean, I'm very happy Alan Wake 2 did so well because people were counting that game out because it was up against um, Spider-Man and an Assassin's Creed game. And it looks like the one that lost that three-way fight was Mirage. Um, but, you know, Spider-Man kind of had its time because, of course, it was Spider-Man. Spider-Man's always a juggernaut. But people are finding Alan Wake too. And I mean, that was a game that was made so skin of the teeth that they didn't do physical copies to keep the cost of production down. So they could price it $10 cheaper than everything else. And it's doing decently. And that, thank God, you know, you don't have to be this juggernaut IP. You have to put out something that people are going to connect with. And that's why when it's like good writing, good game, bad game, some stuff is objective. People have to be able to read your font, right? Other stuff, like what is considered intuitive controls, the whole point of Soulsborne games is it's not always intuitive, but that's their brand. That's the rules of Dark Souls. So, you know, other type of games can't get away with that. And I do think that there's enough, the market is big enough now that we can just chill on the stuff that we don't like. And game companies can chill responding to the toxicity. It's much better to go, thank you to the fans. We're going to retweet fan art and fan fiction all like crazy and now make a DLC that's all about how some of it's super creepy. But because we love you. Like baby girl Alan Wake fans, they are seen. And that's I think how you do it. That's how you foster positivity. There's 0 point in going, we don't support bigotry, we condemn racism. Fucking of course you do. Like, come on. We shouldn't require these purity tests from developers. You know, if somebody's putting a mixed race lead character, of course they don't, you know, of course they're not down with racism. It's just, come on. And if you're spending all your time fighting the haters, you're not rewarding the people that do understand what you do, which is why, you know, I'm really loving what Ubi did with Assassin's Creed, because they probably knew there was going to be freaking out, right? So just like, whatever, we're putting it out, and then you can freak out, and then we're going to do gameplay reveal, and it makes complete sense. And oh, by the way, the Shinobi's awesome. That's what I'm trying to take inspiration from. That's what I'm trying to support. We're actively, you know, making it clear that real support matters in the Discord, not lip service, not pandering, not kissing ass, actually really supporting and, you know, not just being a critic. And that doesn't mean you can't say you don't like something. I said I'm not loving Dragon Age Veilguard right now. Team Soulless forever. Joke. You can be critical in a positive way. If Dragon Age wants the money of players like me, they'll respond accordingly. If they don't, that's fine. And I do think that we need to be more chill about this stuff, because holy shit, I have 3 physical copies of games here that I still haven't played. Why would I complain about a game not being for me? There's too much to play as is, right? Games are awesome. Gaming's awesome. What awesome stuff is coming out? Holy shit. Amazing. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. Or sign up for yourself. Embrace positivity. Embrace support. Embrace constructive criticism, not hate. Thanks for watching, and have a great weekend.